Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Histories of Horror, where we follow the echoes of the past to uncover the truth behind the veil. It's Cy Marie, and tonight AL and I are exploring one of the most infamous places in America's paranormal history, Waverly Hills Sanatorium. So let's go to AL to hear more.
Hey Sai, how's everyone doing tonight? Well, Waverly Hills is located in Louisville, Kentucky, and is known for its eerie architecture and thousands of deaths from the tuberculosis epidemic. Waverly has become a hotspot for paranormal investigators and truth seekers alike. But we're not just talking about the headlines here. No, we're tracing the residual energy, the emotions, and the spirits still lingering within its halls. I've not only researched the site's history, but walked its halls and witnessed the unexplained firsthand. So let's be
Wow, that was crazy. So let's get into your whole experience there.
sure. Have y'all ever heard of a place where the walls seem to breathe? The air is so thick with whispers, and the shadows have a mind of their own. This is what Waverly Hills is like.
I can't imagine that. That's crazy. I've heard that not every ghost here has a name, but that one in particular stayed with you. How about you tell us about that?
Well, there were three that actually came and spoke to me or let me visit with them while I was there. The one that creeped me out the worst was the creeper. The creeper is a very evil presence, I would think. Um, Most people that have seen the creeper have said that it is a shadow creature. To me, it did not feel like it was a shadow creature. It felt like it was some more of like a demon or demonic entity. It seemed to even want to stalk me through the halls.
So
Uh,
you feel like it was more malevolent in nature.
Very malevolent. It made me feel
Awesome.
like death itself was stalking me.
Wow. Um, I know that there was a particular room that you wanted to talk about with this paranormal tracing. Do you want to tell us
hmm
about that?
Room 504. Room 504 is on the fifth floor, obviously, because it's room 504, or 502, I'm sorry. 502 was right over the courtyard. You could look out, go all the way to the end of the room where the window was, and actually step off the ledge. Now, this is important because in 502, a lady died here. It was said that she was unmarried and she was pregnant by one of the doctors that roamed the halls. He was married and she was not. So they had a little thing going on, in the hospital. And when he decided that he was not going to marry Mary Hellenberg, which was her name, in 1928, she walked into room 502 and hung herself from the ceiling light.
Wow, that's so sad.
It was really sad. However, a few years later in 1932, a second nurse walked into the same room and leapt from the edge to the courtyard below. She hit the ground so hard that it left the ground slightly indented when they removed her body.
Wow, that is insane.
hmm
So was that your first time experiencing something so direct with a spirit?
Um, no, not really. See, what happened was whenever we first got there, like, okay, so at the building, no. In life, no. I've been seeing different entities since I was around 11 or 12. I
Okay.
almost died whenever I was 10 years old, so I've been seeing the paranormal since I was little, and they've they've come to scare me most times because you usually see them when um, you see them as they first died. So they're usually covered in blood or dismembered or what have you. Um, with Mary, um, when I first saw her, we had just stepped into the courtyard. We being myself and my friend Lisa, who has already passed away, um, we looked up and saw room 502, and she was there hanging from the ceiling light. We could see the body still hanging there. And
And I've done podcasts in the past with you and Lisa, and I
mhm.
know that, like you said, she passed away, but I was wondering, did she also see it?
She said she did. She said she saw her standing there, but not hanging from the ceiling light. She said
So
she
you think
saw
she got
her
right.
just standing there, and um, she was close enough to the edge to where um, Lisa said she could see the ring around her neck where she hung herself.
Oh, that's
It was very
that's some.
creepy. Yeah. When we got up
Um,
to 502, I could see her. Like, she was not bloody at all. You could still see the ring around her neck where she had hung herself, but she was wearing her nurse's garment and she was holding a baby boy.
oh wow.
Hmm.
So, do you believe certain spirits get stuck because of unresolved emotions in cases like this?
I do. See, and that's another part. There is another ghost that resides within the Waverly. There is a ghost in the Waverly called the Man in White. Now, why this is so important is that he is known to be a doctor. Could this be the doctor that screwed over Mary? And because of his guilt, he's staying there? I think so.
I mean, that's a possibility. Do you think that, like, was there any like particular things you noticed before you seen the ghosts? Like, was there a temperature shift or any kind of a physical sensation that you felt when you saw her?
Yeah, there's always a cold shift. You always get the chills, or at least I do. I get the chills. My arms usually break out in goosebumps, and sometimes the hair on the back of my neck seems to stand up.
Right. We both have that in common, that we've seen weird things since we were children, and that's definitely a feeling and a sensation that I too have felt
Hmm.
in circumstances of similar merit. Um, did you sense any kind of emotional energy, or did you feel like there was any kind of psychic tracing there?
I felt a lot of sadness and grief with her. I knew that the way that she acted, she wouldn't speak, but she was very sad, and the aura just around her just felt really, really sad. Like there was no way she could ever be happy again.
So, what other presences or impressions did you sense while there?
Well, there is a little boy. He is said to be about 7 or 8. His name is Timmy, and he had a little ball. So when we came up to the actual gate to be let in, he was actually one of the ghosts that was on the lawn to meet us as we came into the actual building area. When Lisa stopped the car, or truck, sorry, when Lisa stopped the truck and we got out, he asked me, "Hey, come play with me." And I told him okay. And he followed us the almost the entire time until we got to, I believe it was floor 2 or 4, and that's when the creeper showed up. He said to be careful.
And would you say that was
Hmm?
he said to be careful and what?
He said to be careful. That the creeper was scary.
So, did you start to feel like a sense of trepidation at that point? Were you afraid of him?
I did. When Timmy told me that and ran off, I started feeling really cold, like more cold than normal when a regular ghost is near me. And it felt like there was nothing that could ever make me happy again. Like, I was just grief stricken. Um, it literally felt like I was going to be dying next, if that makes sense.
Okay, so the spirit obviously had a very intimidating demeanor. Do you feel
Mhm.
like it wanted you to be afraid, or that it was just kind of sending a warning?
I believe that the creeper itself takes and preys on people that visit, because there are millions of people that visit a year. And I believe that those that are brave enough to spend the night, because you can spend the night here, I believe that it preys on people, on visitors, like it wants to take the lives of the people that it preys on.
All right. So let's talk about the idea of paranormal tracing. It's not just capturing EVPs or chasing shadows,
Hmm.
it's about empathic resonance and about being present with what still lingers and listening to the energy that's left behind.
Hmm.
Um, how do you feel about that and its correlation to Waverly Hills?
Well, um, I believe Waverly is soaked in it. There's so much grief and pain. There's a lot of longing. Ghosts that don't really want to leave. Ghosts that can't leave. Um, I believe that. Um, yeah, there's been some people, some ghost hunters, gone in and done the EVPs, and they'll say, "Oh, look, there's a shadow. Let's go chase it." And it's not just that. There's so much more than just the EVPs and what we can capture on film or on, vocally. There are emotions that you feel that you would never feel unless you went there, unless you experienced it. To me, it feels like there's so much there. Like, so much there. Like, you would not believe um the spine chill that runs up your the back of your back, um when you feel the creeper is right behind you, breathing down your neck, when you see Mary hanging from the ceiling light, when you see the little girl on the third floor where all of the children that had TV were, and the one little girl has no eyes. It makes you want to believe more than what
Wow.
you were.
Wow. So you feel like some of that seeps in and it kind of um, gives you this somber kind of feeling or sensation then?
I do. Every ghost there has their own story to learn and to be told, and I believe it's our job to listen more than just what you can catch on EVP.
Okay, so you kind of are in that they have unfinished business and they're on repeat here. So you can feel the emotional tax that that has put on the location itself. But do you think that that's something that applies to everyone that visits Waverly or only those who are susceptible and highly intuitive?
People that are highly susceptible and intuitive. I believe it takes a certain kind of person to actually be able to feel it. If your body isn't open, if your mind isn't open, then you're not going to be able to feel it. You're not going to be able to experience everything that someone else would, that has their brain and mind and body and soul open to feel everything.
Okay, so with that being said, for the people that are skeptics out there, I think that this is a good time to ask and pose the question of um, if you're not an intuitive person, and then you go through something like what you did before you had seen or felt any of those things, like you do now, do you think you would have been one of those people that actually was affected by your visit to Waverly Hills, or do you think it would have just been like visiting any other location?
Um, I don't know, honestly. Um, I mean, I knew what I was going into before I went into Waverly Hills. Granted, that was what me and Lisa used to do, was whenever we weren't traveling with the carnival, we would take and go off to different places that were haunted. We even played a few different areas that were haunted. Um, some of them we didn't know were haunted before we got there, but we found out pretty quickly.
Okay,
Uh,
so that's basically what I'm getting at
mhm.
is, so you just said if you're not open to it, you're most likely not going to experience it. But there was a time in your life when you weren't open to it, and then you had this spiritually jarring experience, and now you said post that you were able to see different types of spirits.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, how much more scary would it be to someone who is a skeptic and who goes to a place like Waverly Hills under their skepticism and not thinking that they're going to be affected, who ends up seeing something like the nurse in 502 and is completely just scared out of their wits about it? How would you advise someone to deal with that?
Well, it would depend on how, they would be freaking out. Mostly, I would take them and pull them out of the room, set them down, start talking to them, letting them know that it's just a ghost, they can't hurt you. Um, I would tell them, if it helps you, you can have your religious relics if you want them. Some people carry crosses, some people carry blessed stones. Um, there's also getting blessed by a preacher afterwards. Um, literally, I would just sit down and talk
Yeah,
to them.
saging and always important. Saging and cleansing and doing anything like that when you go to a place like that,
Hmm.
or really anywhere where you experience a kind of a spiritual experience, you should definitely do that. But I guess what I'm getting at is, um, people, it's not all, I don't feel like it's always that way. I feel like there are a lot of cases where people inadvertently find a ghost and it scares them, and a place like Waverly Hills is obviously infamously known for paranormal
Hmm.
entities and experiences. But in cases where a lot of times people are awakened to it in a very unexpected place, like you were just explaining, and going somewhere and then just having something occur, and they were never open to it until they are in the middle of it. And so what I'm getting at is, sometimes it's not even if you are open to it,
Hmm.
sometimes it's that the spirits and their emotional energy when you go into the place are so strong that
Hmm.
you have no choice but to just see what it is for what it is. And then you are suddenly brought into the paranormal and a supernatural experience where your eyes are opened. And that's what usually does scare people, is that they were skeptical, they didn't believe this, and then they find themselves in the situation where something has happened to them that's so unbelievable and scary that it kind of messes with their cognitive dissonance, and all of a sudden now they're on the opposite side of, they're open to it even though they didn't want to be.
Right. Yeah, it's been known for
So,
people that visit, they weren't open, they experienced something, and it scares them into believing.
right. And then from there you kind of just like, you come back into here and you realize it's kind of like, what if a haunting is a memory on repeat and not just a trapped soul? You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah, they're just playing on repeat. And we've had a couple of those that we've seen, or that I have seen. Um, they they don't pose any threat. They're just doing what they would have done when they were alive. So they don't even know that they're dead.
So, um, you said there were what, a total of three ghosts you seen when you were at Waverly then?
Uh, I believe I saw four. I saw Mary Hillenberg, which is the nurse from 502. The creeper, which stays just out of your eyesight unless you catch it properly. Timmy, which is the little boy on floor 3, yet he was in the courtyard when I got there. And I also saw the little girl with no eyes.
Okay. So, of the four, which one the creeper was that the one you think was the scariest?
Oh no, he was. It was definitely the creepiest. It was so terrifying. After I even left, uh, the feeling of dread stayed with me for at least 5 hours after we left. I just couldn't shake
Oh
it.
wow. So you were with
Mhm.
lingering worry there. Did
Mhm.
you feel like anything might have attached to you or followed you home?
I don't think it did. Um, like normal people, that would go in and have occurrences with this quite often. Lisa and I both saged before and after. We said a prayer. We did very many things that would try to keep them from following us. And I don't think I had anything attached. It was just the feeling from the creeper. It just would not go away. I know for at least 5 hours it was with me.
So it definitely settled into your bones.
Hmm.
How do you feel that spaces like Waverly Hills become recordings of trauma?
Um, I believe whenever trauma happens, it it goes into the stones because most stone is a very good keeper for things like this, especially when something like this, such a tragedy happens with all of the tuberculosis and all of the tuberculosis that happened. It set into a huge trauma experience that it just stayed in the stones.
So do you think that, okay, if Waverly Hills were to be demolished, and I'm asking this because I'm part Native American and some of my own beliefs here.
Hmm.
If Waverly Hills building were to be completely de-erected and there were no more stones, do you think that the spiritual lingering would still be there on the land itself?
It's a possibility, a big possibility, especially with the tunnel.
Personally, I absolutely. My answer
Hmm.
would be absolutely because I think that it's more than just the building, it's the actual spirits themselves and the amount of tragedy and death that occurred in a place. And when the amount of traction that happens that a land is bloodstained
Hmm.
so widely, um I don't think that this stretch of land, even if the sanatorium were completely destroyed, would ever be free of that residual energy, even if they did a widespread exorcism, because it was just too much tragedy too quickly on top of each other. And
Yeah.
there were other things that happened aside from the TB, obviously, just even
Hmm.
talking about the nurse case. It was a place that, even though it was largely for tuberculosis patients, there were also different types of mental and levels of uh, intellectual incapacity of different patients that were sometimes put there, and they had,
Hmm.
you know, patients from all walks of life of every age. So it's such a broad, diverse amount of people that suffered in this one concentrated location that I truly think that sometimes it's not just the building itself, it's the land, or even in cases like where someone takes an object and it becomes a cursed object, like a Dybbuk box or even Annabelle, for example.
Right.
It's associated with the item and the place, and not necessarily always just, like, for example, sometimes they demolish a haunted house and the land still stays
Hmm.
spiritually attached to. And we've seen where they've rebuilt, brand new housing projects on top of what used to be a mausoleum, and those places begin to get haunted. So, basically, what I'm thinking is, with this being about paranormal tracing, is realizing no matter where we go, there was something there before we got there.
Yeah. Always. You never know what was on a piece of land unless you research it before you even start trying to build something on top of it.
Even then, in some cases, because of the way that history works, it's not always told. And Native American burial mounds are a big, big deal there
Hmm.
because a lot of times, when the white people came in and the settlers came in and they took different lands, they claimed the land and they might have known a little bit about it, or maybe somebody bought it 3 generations down from the first person that founded, that land and was the settler there. But they don't know that 500 years before it was a battleground for Native American where, hundreds of people were slaughtered or something.
Right,
And we find that all the time. We're constantly finding that when they're doing, different types of excavating. So Waverly is obviously this standing, solidified edifice that is associated and known, for being the sanatorium that it was. But I theorize that even if the building were not there, it still would be entrenched in this supernatural phenomena.
right. And I feel it would be like that as well. Um, there's just something to it that they seem to enjoy the land. That's why I think that Timmy was not just stuck to floor 3. He came out to the courtyard to even invite me into Waverly itself.
Right. So, do you feel that telling these stories might bring a kind of peace or closure to the spirits that are there?
I do, honestly. To let the spirits know that their stories are getting out and letting others hear what's going on inside Waverly. It might have even, triggered them to go see it for themselves.
So, Waverly Hills is more than a haunted hospital here. It seems like it's a monument to suffering. Do you agree with that?
I do, honestly. So many people suffered even before uh, TB and after TB was introduced into the United States.
And with the experiences that you had there, would you ever be one of those people willing to spend the night?
I would, honestly.
So it didn't scare you so much that you would be opposed to that. That's interesting.
Yep. I mean, I would be terrified with the creeper coming back, but I think this time, with me knowing what to expect with him, I would be prepared.
So, is there anything identifiable that you can describe to us about what the creeper looks like for anybody who might be interested in going, and a little bit about maybe his story in a little more depth then?
Well, the creeper is said to be a shadow person. Um,
Right.
the people that have seen him only think that it is just a shadowy figure. It crawls along the walls. It stalks its visitors like prey. Um, it has been seen reported several times. Um, you get the feeling of dread, like you're expecting death. Um, it follows you and follows you and follows you until you think it's gone, but he's not. Um, and then you feel the wind blow right beside your ear or right on the back of your neck. That's not the wind, honey. That's the creeper. He's about to get you.
So, do you know about what time people started seeing this entity at the hospital?
I honestly looked and looked and looked, and I did not find any first recorded um, sighting of the creeper. He has just been reported so many times. He's just an expected entity there at the hospital.
Okay, so what does anyone have to do in order to ensure they're going to have a ghost sighting if they attend and visit Waverly?
I would just say be open to everything that you would see. Don't go in with a half-hearted mind. or a half-hearted brain. Um, go in open to anything happening, um, just to where you're not, um, just to where you're not um, scared of anything happening, because things will happen, whether you want it to or not.
Hello. Hello.
Okay, so
Hold on a minute.
is there any final thoughts that you'd like to share or any further in-depth stories you'd like to tell us? I'm sure our listeners are interested in hearing what you have to say about um the full experience.
Well, for the most part, I can explain a little bit more about the history of it. Um, as far as my experiences go, I've pretty much said everything that has happened to me while I was there.
Okay, so
I think it's part what it is. I don't.
it sounds like you and Lisa had a really good time. Did this lead to any further
Yeah.
interest in possibly going back?
Yeah, we had planned to actually go and spend the night there at one point. Um, we did not get to go and do it, obviously. She passed away before we were able to go do it. When the Mattinglys took over in 2001, when they bought the building that is now known as Waverly Hills Sanatorium, um, they started offering all kinds of tours. They would take and give daytime tours to those who wanted to know more about the history of the building, and people, giving them a look around at all of the restoration they had been doing. And they also started offering tours to those who wanted to come at night, those who were brave enough to come at night. They gave a tour at night for this specific reason. There are also ones who get the tour and pay additional fees and sign contracts to stay the night. Those who stay the night, they are signing away their rights to, whatever happens. They don't get sued. So if you are running around and you fall over something, you don't, sue them for getting hurt, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
we had gotten up to the part to where we were going to sign the paperwork to spend the night after the tour, and something came up, and Lisa and I were not able to go at all. Um, but we really wanted to do that. That was something on our bucket list.
Do you think you'll still do it someday if you get the chance?
If I ever get the chance, yeah, I would love to go do it. It is still on my bucket list to go do.
Awesome. So, are there any final thoughts about Waverly Hills that you would like to share with us today?
Um, Waverly Hills may look horrible on the outside. However, it is a wonderful place to go and experience. Um, I think that if you ever had a chance, go visit it. I would love to go back. I would even love to go spend the night. Um, I had so much fun there. I regret meeting the creeper, but when we got up to the top floors, they used to have children sunbathe up there to try to cure them from the TB, and we heard remnants of Ring Around the Rosie being played. That is some of the most
Oh,
creepiest stuff you could ever hear, but it is so inspiring whenever you hear the little children laughing down the halls. So I say if it interests you, go try it. Go experience it for yourself. You may actually enjoy it more than you'd actually think you would. Don't be afraid.
awesome. Well, it seems like you had a great time and that you and Lisa really got to fully experience the greatness of Waverly Hills. So that is so cool. I'm so
Hmm.
glad that you got to do that. Um, on the next episode of Histories of Horror, we're going to be talking about something that brings us back to the true crime spectrum space. And I am excited about that because it is a story that connects back to me. I'm kind of a little bit weirded out by that, but I think it will be a fun topic. And this was definitely a really fun one. So thank you for sharing your experience with Waverly Hills with us tonight, AL. We all appreciate it.
Of course.
So yeah, everybody, Waverly Hills is more than a haunted hospital. It's a monument to suffering, survival, and sorrow that still speaks through the silence. So whether you're a skeptic, believer, or somewhere in between, thank you for walking through it with us. And until next time, stay curious and remember, some shadows are just waiting to be seen.